All right, folks, let's jump right in to something that's really crucial for anyone interested in India's future. It's jobs.
Yeah.
And, we're talking about the kind of jobs that will shape the nation. And today, we're dissecting a really insightful analysis from the Hindu.
You know what's fascinating here? We're not just talking about any jobs, right? It's about understanding the specific kinds of employment that will lead to a truly, Viksit Bharat.
Developed India.
Exactly. And I think that's really the key here, right? It's the quality of those jobs. It's their relevance in a world that's changing so rapidly. Um, and the article that we're looking at breaks it down into three, I gotta say, really intriguing categories. Climate resilient jobs, AI resilient jobs, and aspiration-centric jobs.
It sounds a bit, academic.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
But I think we can unpack it in a way that makes it crystal clear.
Yeah, and I have a feeling you're going to be able to do that. And especially make it relevant, I think, to, those who are tackling the UPSC exams. Absolutely. Yeah, these terms are more than just buzzwords. I mean, they represent very real shifts in the job market and that any UPSC aspirant should be aware of.
That's right.
The article even connects it back to the 2024 budget, remember, which had that ambitious goal of generating over 4 core jobs in 5 years.
Mm.
But as we've said, the what kind of job question is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this a little bit.
Right.
Starting with these climate resilient jobs. I think, we're all aware that climate change is a massive issue.
Yeah.
But how does that translate into specific job opportunities?
Right. Well, you got to think about it this way. India is already facing significant economic losses because of climate change.
Yeah.
Nearly $160 billion in 2021 alone. So the article argues that we need to view this not just as a challenge, right, but as an opportunity.
Okay, so turning that challenge into a solution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by investing heavily in things like renewable energy, sustainable transportation, and climate adaptation, we can create a whole new sector of employment.
Right, so it's not just about, talking about climate change,
No.
but about actually building a job market that is designed to address it.
Precisely. And a great example the article brings up is state-subsidized e-rickshaws in villages. Imagine the potential there, right?
Yeah.
2 million new jobs with a focus on women
Wow.
while at the same time improving rural transportation and curbing those emissions.
Now, that's what I call, hitting multiple targets with one strategy.
Absolutely.
Right. And it seems like there's a theme that's emerging here where these new types of jobs, they're not just like isolated solutions, but they're interconnected with broader kind of societal and economic goals.
Right.
And that's something I bet our UPSC folks need to have a handle on.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's about seeing the bigger picture. And speaking of the bigger picture, I mean, we can't ignore, the elephant in the room here, AI and its impact on the job market.
Right.
So how do we create jobs that are AI resilient?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's talking about how AI might automate jobs away. So how do we ensure that, people are prepared for a future where AI is a major force? Is it even possible?
That's a good question. The key, according to this article, is focusing on those areas where human skills still hold a distinct advantage. Think creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, those qualities that are inherently human and really difficult for AI to replicate.
So it's not about, resisting AI altogether,
Yeah.
but rather adapting to it, focusing on what we as humans, do best.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the article points to education and healthcare as prime examples.
Oh, okay.
These are sectors with massive shortages in India, and the demand for teachers and healthcare professionals is unlikely to be met by AI anytime soon. They require human connection, they require complex decision-making, all the things that make us uniquely human.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Right. It's about recognizing those uniquely human skills and then ensuring that our workforce is, equipped to thrive in areas where those skills are valued.
Right.
Now, we've got one more category here to unpack, and these are those aspiration-centric jobs.
Yeah.
So what exactly does that entail, and how does it tie into India's development?
So this category is particularly interesting, because it focuses on aligning job creation with the aspirations of India's youth, especially in rural areas. We're talking about, young people who have big dreams, who are eager to contribute to India's growth story.
Right. It's about creating those opportunities that tap into that energy and that ambition.
Right.
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 But how do we translate that into concrete action and job creation.
Yeah.
I'm guessing this is where it gets really relevant for our UPSC listeners.
Absolutely. This is where understanding policy and implementation, becomes crucial.
Yeah.
And one of the key areas the article highlights is rapid infrastructure development, particularly in the agricultural sector.
Okay, so building up that, backbone of the economy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The article specifically mentions the potential of constructing modern storage facilities for agricultural products. Those integrated pack houses we talked about earlier. Not only would this address the massive infrastructure gap in those agricultural supply chains, but it could also generate over 2 million jobs.
Wow, that's a huge number.
Right.
And I imagine those jobs would be in a variety of areas, from construction and logistics to, management and technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, building new structures. It's about creating an entire ecosystem of support and services around those facilities. We're talking about jobs in transportation, processing, quality control, and more.
So it's a ripple effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where one major infrastructure project can then create this whole network of related jobs and opportunities.
Right.
And from a UPSC perspective, this is highlighting the interconnectedness of different sectors and how policy decisions can have far-reaching consequences.
Precisely. And this ties directly into the idea of, those aspiration-centric jobs, because it's about creating opportunities that are not only, financially rewarding, but also contribute to a sense of progress and modernization.
It's about seeing, tangible results in your community.
Right.
And feeling like you're a part of something bigger.
Exactly. And this brings us to another crucial aspect of aspiration-centric jobs, revitalizing those rural industries. So the article talks about how we can leverage technology to connect rural artisans and farmers with a wider market, essentially, rebranding and modernizing those traditional sectors.
But it's not about abandoning those traditional skills and industries. It's about finding ways to make them relevant and competitive in today's world,
right?
Which probably requires a shift in mindset, right?
Yeah.
Both from the producers and the consumers.
You hit the nail on the head. This goes beyond just creating jobs. It's about shifting perceptions and creating a sense of pride in these traditional industries. And that's where things like e-commerce, digital marketing, and branding all come into play.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how technology can be a tool for both, disruption and empowerment, right?
Right.
It can automate certain tasks, but it can also connect people and create opportunities that didn't exist before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And think about the implications for, UPSC aspirants, right?
Yeah.
They need to understand how government initiative like the National Rural Livelihood Mission aim to bridge this gap between tradition and modernity.
Right.
It's not just about memorizing schemes, but about critically analyzing their impact and potential challenges.
It sounds like there's a lot to unpack there.
Mm-hmm.
Before we dive into those specific initiatives, I kind of wanted to touch on something else that the article highlighted, which is this focus on compressed biogas plants.
Ah, yes. That's a perfect example of how, climate resilient jobs can intersect with those other development goals. So right now, India has only a fraction of the compressed biogas plants it needs.
Wow.
So we're talking about huge untapped potential there.
So what are the barriers to expanding this sector, and what kind of job opportunities could it unlock if those barriers are overcome?
Well, one of the main challenges is the lack of awareness and investment.
Okay.
So building these plants requires capital, it requires expertise, and there's a need for supportive policies to incentivize this kind of development.
So it's not just about the technology itself. It's about the entire ecosystem that needs to be built around it.
Right.
The financing, the regulations, the workforce training.
Exactly. And this is where the government's role is crucial, by creating the right conditions for investment and innovation.
Yeah.
We can unlock a massive wave of job creation in this sector.
And from a climate perspective, that's a win-win, right?
Absolutely.
Because compressed biogas is a renewable energy source.
Yeah.
It can help reduce our reliance on those fossil fuels.
Precisely. It's a prime example of how addressing climate change can go hand in hand with economic development. And for our UPSC aspirants, it's a reminder to think beyond those siloed solutions and look for those interconnected strategies that can address multiple challenges simultaneously.
Right. Right. So we've explored those climate resilient jobs, the biogas example, and started to touch upon aspiration-centric jobs with things like, infrastructure development, revitalizing rural industries. But we haven't gotten into specifics on AI-resilient jobs beyond education and healthcare.
Right.
Is there more to that side of the equation?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a lot more we can explore when it comes to AI resilient jobs. It's not just about specific sectors, it's more about fostering those skills and mindsets that will be valuable in a world that's, driven by AI.
So it's less about predicting like which jobs will exist and more about like equipping people with that adaptability to thrive no matter what changes come.
Exactly. Think about it. Critical thinking, complex problem solving, creativity,
Yeah.
those are all skills that will be in high demand, even as AI takes on more of those routine tasks.
And that has like huge implications for education.
No,
Right.
I love
I mean, we need to be preparing students not just for the jobs that exist today, but for a future where those jobs might look very different.
Absolutely. And the article touches on this,
No.
highlighting the need for kind of a shift in our education system,
Mm.
moving away from rote learning and toward fostering those higher order thinking skills.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about equipping students with the tools they need to be those lifelong learners, to adapt and evolve as the job market changes.
Mm.
I bet that's a key takeaway for UPSC aspirants, too.
Right. Absolutely.
Not just understanding the policies, but understanding the forces that are shaping those policies,
Yeah.
like AI and automation.
It's about seeing those connections, thinking critically about the long-term implications. And speaking of connections, the article also emphasizes the importance of, public-private partnerships in creating a more robust and resilient job market.
Okay, so how does that tie into AI-resilient jobs specifically?
Well, large-scale industries have a crucial role to play in providing those structured employment ecosystems. Think about it. Apprenticeship programs, training initiatives, pathways for upskilling workers as technology evolves.
So it's about creating those bridges between education and the workforce, ensuring that people are equipped with the skills that industries actually need. And I imagine that's especially important in light of, the frustrations that a lot of young people face with things like, exam leaks and those limited government job vacancies, and kind of broadens those horizons a little bit.
Precisely. It's about fostering a more diverse and dynamic job market where people
Yeah.
have a wider range of options, pathways to success. And that ties back into those aspiration-centric jobs, right?
Yeah.
It's about creating opportunities that are not only viable, but also aligned with, the dreams and ambitions of young Indians.
It's about giving people a sense of agency,
Yeah.
of being able to like shape their own futures.
Exactly. And this brings us back to, the key takeaway from this deep dive. It's not just about memorizing facts and figures for the UPSC exam. It's about understanding those complexities of the job market and developing those insights to contribute to meaningful solutions.
It's about seeing the bigger picture, connecting those dots, and thinking critically about how all these different factors, climate change, AI, education, government policies, are shaping the future of work in India.
Absolutely. And remember, this deep dive was inspired by a fantastic piece from The Hindu, which we'll link in the show notes. We encourage you to give it a read and kind of delve deeper into these important issues.
Yeah, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation. And for our listeners out there, especially those gearing up for the UPSC exams, remember that the future of work in India is dynamic and it's full of possibilities. There are opportunities to build careers that are not only successful, but also deeply meaningful.
Absolutely. And if you found this deep dive helpful, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth analysis on topics that matter.
And as always, we love hearing from you, so drop your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those brains buzzing.